Today's story will stir your soul. So, I request you to watch the video till the end. This is a unique tale of a girl and a gorilla. The core of this story revolves around how the gorilla disrupts every marriage of the girl and in the end, traps her, leaving her pregnant in the jungle. It is a shocking and mysterious event, so please watch the full video. Beside a dense jungle, there was a small town called New York. Life in the town was quite simple: mud houses, unpaved roads, and vast fields of greenery all around. However, the townspeople were terrified of the jungle. Many stories were told about it. Some believed that ghosts resided there, while others claimed that wild beasts abducted anyone who entered. These tales had instilled deep fear in both children and elders alike. The town's chief, whom everyone called Uncle David, would exaggerate these stories even further. He would warn the townspeople, saying, "Anyone who enters the jungle never returns. Only death awaits there." Despite all these warnings, there was one girl who was desperate to venture into the jungle. Friends, don't skip the video. Watch it till the end. Before we begin, type "amazing" in the comments and give this video a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Let's reach our target of 10,000 likes on this video. Give it a like right away. Now let's begin the story. The girl's name was Mariana Bailey. At just 18 years old, Mariana was different from the other girls in town. While others were busy with household chores, she would spend hours gazing at the jungle. From childhood, Mariana had a habit of asking questions. Her mother would often scold her, saying, "Mariana, don't ask too many questions. Girls don't need to think so much." But Mariana wasn't the kind to blindly follow instructions. She wanted to know what was inside the jungle that made everyone so afraid. In the town, people looked at her differently. Some called her stubborn, while others thought she was strange. But Mariana didn't care about anyone's opinions. Her biggest wish was to explore the jungle and uncover its mysteries. She always felt a strange pull toward the jungle. In the morning, she would stare at the sunlight piercing through the trees. At night, when eerie sounds echoed from the forest, she would wonder, are these the sounds of animals or something else? She often told her best friend, Ellie Briggs, "One day, you'll see, I will go into that jungle." Ellie, frightened, would reply, "Don't be crazy, Mariana. Uncle David said there are ghosts in there." Mariana would smile and say, "There's no such thing as ghosts. These are just fear tactics." One day, a meeting was held in the town. Uncle David declared, "Our town will only have peace if we stay away from the jungle. No one is allowed to go there." Summoning her courage, Mariana asked, "But how can we know if the jungle is truly dangerous?" The townspeople were stunned, staring at her in disbelief. Just then, an elderly man spoke up. "Child, this is a matter for the elders. You shouldn't interfere." Mariana fell silent. However, Mariana Bailey had already made up her mind. She would go into the jungle. Last night, she stood by her window, gazing at the dense forest. The moonlit night cast mysterious shadows across the trees, making the jungle seem even more enigmatic. Mariana decided that she could wait no longer. Tomorrow morning, she would enter the jungle. At dawn, she carefully packed her small basket with bread, fruits, and some medicine. Her mother noticed her and asked, "Where are you going so early in the morning?" Mariana lied, "I'm going to the fields with Ellie Briggs." Her mother gave her a suspicious look, but said nothing. Slowly, Mariana walked past the town's borders and ventured toward the jungle. Her heart pounded with both fear and excitement. As soon as she stepped inside, an unfamiliar scent filled her senses, the smell of damp earth and fresh leaves. Towering trees surrounded her, their thick canopies making it difficult for sunlight to reach the forest floor. Mariana began walking carefully. With every step, she discovered something new. Somewhere in the distance, colorful birds were singing. "How beautiful this jungle is," she thought to herself. But the deeper she went, the more ominous the jungle began to feel. It was both breathtaking and terrifying. Every rustling sound made her heart jump. After a while, Mariana realized that she had wandered too far. She looked around and murmured, "Is there no way back? Do I have to keep moving forward?" Just then, a sudden rustling noise erupted from a nearby bush. Mariana froze, her body trembling. Could it be a wild animal, she thought, fear gripping her. Slowly, she stepped toward the bushes. Then, from behind them, a small deer darted away in fright. Seeing the deer, Mariana let out a deep sigh of relief. She laughed at herself. I must be going crazy, fearing every little thing. Hours passed as she continued exploring the jungle. Eventually, exhaustion took over. She sat under a tree, pulled out some bread from her basket, and began eating. But suddenly, she heard another noise from the bushes. This time, it was louder. This is no small animal, Mariana thought, focusing her eyes on the dense foliage. And then, a massive gorilla emerged from the bushes. The creature was nearly 6 feet tall, its eyes gleaming with a strange intensity. It looked as if it was in pain. Mariana's heart pounded violently. She had never seen such a large animal up close before. The gorilla stared at her for a moment, then took a few slow steps forward. But despite its size, its face looked innocent. That's when Mariana noticed its leg was bleeding. Perhaps the gorilla had been injured by a hunter's trap. Seeing Mariana Bailey, the gorilla sat down. But there was something in its expression that did not make Mariana feel threatened. She set her basket on the ground, took out some medicine, and thought, I can help it. The gorilla let out a deep growl as it looked at her, but then it fell silent. It did not try to stop her. Mariana carefully examined its wounded leg and applied the medicine. Her hands trembled as she did so, but the gorilla did not harm her. She then took out a piece of bread from her basket and offered it to the gorilla. The gorilla sniffed it for a moment and then ate it. Seeing this, Mariana felt relieved. You're not dangerous at all. People have the wrong idea about you, she said softly. Strangely, the gorilla looked at her as if it understood every word. Slowly, it moved closer. For the first time, Mariana realized how innocent this jungle creature truly was. After spending time with the gorilla, Mariana noticed that evening was approaching. She had lost her way back home. The gorilla looked at her, its presence making her feel safe. Maybe I can spend the night here, she thought. This gorilla won't harm me. That night, Mariana listened to the eerie sounds of the jungle while the gorilla remained by her side. For the first time, she realized not everything we fear is truly dangerous. As dawn broke, sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a golden glow on the forest floor. Mariana opened her eyes and saw the gorilla still sitting nearby, as if it had been guarding her all night. You won't hurt me, will you? She asked with a smile. The gorilla simply looked at her, then reached toward a tree, plucked a fruit, and handed it to her. It was the first time the gorilla had offered something to her. Mariana took the fruit and ate it. Maybe we could be friends, she whispered. She studied the gorilla closely, its movements, its expressions. Its eyes held a strange innocence. Slowly, she stepped closer and examined its wound. The gorilla remained still, not resisting. After a while, the gorilla began leading her deeper into the jungle. At first, Mariana was a little scared, but she followed. Along the way, the gorilla showed her different fruits from the trees and even saved her from several dangers. A unique bond began to form between them. Through gestures and expressions, the gorilla tried to communicate with her. And Mariana slowly started understanding. One day, the gorilla pointed toward a large tree where birds were building their nests. Are you showing me something like your home? Mariana asked. The gorilla nodded, as if it understood. This strengthened their connection even further. Mariana spent the next few days in the jungle with the gorilla, learning its ways. She saw how the gorilla coexisted with the other animals, how it protected her from snakes and predators, and how it showed her medicinal plants and edible fruits. Mariana realized the gorilla was not just an animal. It was wise, intelligent. But as more days passed, thoughts of home began creeping into her mind. She had come too far. Her people were probably still searching for her. I should go back. The gorilla looked at her, as if it understood everything she was feeling. Mariana felt that the gorilla did not want to hold her back, but it also did not want to let her go. The next day, Mariana Bailey decided to return to the village. She tried to explain to the gorilla, "You have to stay here. The people in town won't understand you." But as she walked out of the jungle, the gorilla followed her. When Mariana reached the outskirts of the village, she turned to stop him. "You must stay here. If the townspeople see you, they will be afraid." The gorilla looked at her as if he understood. He stopped, but sadness was clear in his eyes. After returning to the village, Mariana's behavior changed. She often stared toward the jungle. She spoke less than before. The townspeople began noticing her strange behavior. "Something is wrong with her," an old woman said. Uncle David agreed. "That girl went into the jungle. Something must have happened there." Mariana's parents asked her, "What were you doing in the jungle?" "Nothing, Mama. I'm fine," she replied. But the mystery in her eyes made everyone uneasy. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, the gorilla was remembering Mariana Bailey. He followed her scent, getting closer to the village. One day, a few boys saw him near the jungle's edge. Terrified, they ran back and shouted, "A giant beast is coming toward town." Panic spread through the village. "This is no ordinary animal," Uncle David declared. "This is a jungle monster. It's coming to harm us. We must kill it." Hearing this, Mariana was horrified. She realized they were talking about killing her friend. "Stop them, Mama. That creature won't harm anyone," she pleaded. But her mother scolded her. "Stay quiet. This is a matter for the adults. You don't understand anything." Desperate, Mariana turned to her best friend, Ellie Briggs. "Ellie, I need your help. I have to go to the jungle and save the gorilla." Ellie stared at her. "Are you crazy? If the villagers find out, they'll kill you too." But Mariana didn't listen. She ran toward the jungle. Near the jungle's edge, she found the gorilla. The moment he saw her, he let out a happy roar and approached her. Mariana threw her arms around him. "Why did you come here?" she whispered. The gorilla didn't understand her words, but there was a deep familiarity in his eyes. She tried to lead him back into the jungle. But before they could move, they heard the voices of the villagers. Armed with weapons, the townspeople had reached the jungle. The moment they saw the gorilla, they attacked. The gorilla tried to run, but he couldn't escape far. "Kill it. It's a threat to our town," Uncle David shouted. Mariana ran between them, screaming, "Stop. He won't hurt anyone. He's my friend." The villagers froze in shock. Uncle David's face twisted in anger. "You're defending this beast? It's a wild animal." Mariana took a deep breath and said, "He is no monster. I found him wounded and helped him. He never harmed me." At first, the villagers refused to believe her. They surrounded the gorilla. But the gorilla didn't attack anyone. His calm nature and Mariana's words made some people hesitate. Maybe he really isn't dangerous," a few murmured. But Uncle David didn't want the villagers to listen to her. He signaled his men and ordered, "Drive it out. It's still a threat to our town." The men prepared to attack again. Mariana turned to the gorilla and whispered, "You have to run. They will never understand you." The gorilla looked at her for a moment. Then, understanding her plea, he turned and disappeared into the jungle. Mariana Bailey tried to stop the townspeople, but against Uncle David's stubbornness, she lost. The gorilla ran into the jungle, but leaving Mariana behind was not easy for him. Mariana watched him disappear into the wilderness, and tears rolled down her cheeks. She whispered to herself, "I will see you again." That's a promise. The townspeople believed they had escaped danger. But Mariana knew that the gorilla, King, had never been a threat to them. After the gorilla fled into the jungle, loneliness crept into Mariana's life. Every day, she stared toward the jungle, waiting, hoping. Maybe King would return. She spoke little to her parents and distanced herself from the townspeople. There was always a lost, far away look in her eyes. One day, Ellie Briggs confronted her. "Why you keep acting like this, Mariana? He was just an animal. Forget him." Mariana replied in a soft voice, "He wasn't just an animal. He was everything to me. He understood me when no one else did." Then she lowered her voice even more. "And now, his child is growing inside me," Ellie gasped. After King left for the jungle, Mariana had changed completely. One night, as she lay in bed, she felt something inside her. A presence. A movement. It was as if someone was breathing from within her. She smiled and whispered, "King, you are still with me." Meanwhile, the townspeople began whispering about her. Mariana often placed her hands over her stomach, and her mother started to suspect something. So did the villagers. One day, Uncle David gathered the entire town. "This girl has been different ever since she returned from the jungle," he said. "Something happened to her. We cannot ignore it." The villagers confronted Mariana. "What are you hiding? What's inside your belly?" Mariana didn't answer. She simply smiled, placed her hand over her stomach, and said, "It is the power of the jungle growing within me." The villagers were terrified. Some grew angry. "She is cursed. The jungle spirits have possessed her. We must banish her before she brings ruin upon us." Mariana knew they would never understand. They only saw what was in front of them, but they couldn't comprehend what was growing inside her. She stood in the middle of the town and declared, "You all fear because you have never seen the power of the jungle. You always saw it as a terror, but I found love in it. I found life in it. And now, that life is growing within me." The townspeople gasped. Some women clutched their heads in horror. "She's gone mad. We must stop her before she destroys the town." But Uncle David didn't remain silent. He raised his staff and said, "If she carries the jungle's mark, then she belongs in the jungle." They forced Mariana out of the village. She didn't resist, not even for a moment. She walked toward the jungle with peace in her heart, because that was exactly where she wanted to go. As she approached the jungle, the air changed. The trees whispered in an unfamiliar way. Then, from behind the thick foliage, a shadow emerged. The gorilla slowly stepped forward, his eyes locked onto Mariana's. She extended her hand, and this time, the gorilla kneeled before her in reverence. Mariana smiled. She knew now she was no longer a girl of the town. She was a daughter of the jungle. Back in the town, people whispered, "The jungle spirits have taken Mariana Bailey." But deep within the jungle, a new legend was being born. A girl who embraced her identity. A girl who embraced the power of the jungle. Mariana Bailey was no longer just a daughter of the jungle. She was its queen. The town had forgotten her, but the jungle had accepted her. The gorilla and the other animals moved around her in a way that felt like protection. She could now understand the whispers of the trees as if they spoke to her. Time passed, and Mariana learned to understand them. She learned the language of the animals, their signals, their roars, their behavior. The gorilla always remained by her side. And soon Mariana realized something. She wasn't just a queen. She was the ruler of all creatures in the jungle. Some beasts preyed on the weak. Others fought amongst themselves for power. Mariana Bailey decided to change that. She traveled to every corner of the jungle with the Gorilla King. She made the animals understand strength was not everything. Peace would now rule the jungle. And slowly, the change began. The weak no longer lived in fear. Even the hunters who lurked in the shadows learned their boundaries. A new order had taken root in the jungle. But the town remained the same, and they despised the jungle's peace. One day, Uncle David and a group of townsmen entered the jungle. They came to cut trees, to hunt animals. But they didn't realize the jungle was not the same anymore. As they raised their axes, they heard the thunderous roar of the Gorilla King. And then Mariana Bailey stepped out from behind the trees. The townspeople froze. She was alive, but she no longer looked like the girl they had cast out. She stood with unshaken confidence. Her eyes glowed with power. And in a calm voice, she said, This jungle is no longer yours. It is mine." Uncle David's face twisted in rage. "What are you? Are you human or something else?" Mariana Bailey replied, "I am the one you abandoned. But now I am the queen of the jungle, and I will protect my people." The townspeople raised their weapons. But before they could strike, the entire jungle roared. The Gorilla King bellowed. The trees swayed violently. Birds soared into the sky. And then from the shadows came the creatures of the jungle. Leopards, wolves, elephants, monkeys. They all stood behind Mariana Bailey. The townspeople trembled. For the first time, they saw the true power of the jungle. Uncle David stumbled back. "She is no longer one of us," he muttered. Mariana Bailey closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, Uncle David was kneeling before her. "Forgive us, Queen of the Jungle." The townspeople fled. Time passed, and Mariana Bailey ruled her kingdom in peace. The Gorilla King, the elephants, the wolves, even the mighty lions, they all saw her as their leader. The jungle thrived, but peace was never eternal. One night, when the jungle was bathed in moonlight, Mariana felt a sharp pain. She fell to her knees. Her breath quickened. The animals gathered around her. The Gorilla King watched with concern. But Mariana knew this was no ordinary pain. That night, deep in the heart of the jungle, a new life was born. Mariana Bailey gave birth to a son. He looked human, but his eyes carried the depth of the jungle. His skin was dark, rich with the earth's essence. His body held the strength of the Gorilla King. And in his silence, the jungle's mysteries were hidden. The Gorilla King lifted the child in his mighty hands and roared. The entire jungle welcomed its new heir. The elephants trumpeted. The wolves howled. The birds circled the sky in celebration. He was the jungle's new prince, Mariana Bailey's son, the next ruler of the wild. But the news of this child spread fear in the town. Some woodcutters who had ventured near the jungle had caught a glimpse of the boy. They ran back to the town, shouting, "Mariana Bailey has given birth to something unnatural. This is not a human child. It is the spirit of the jungle itself." Uncle David, who had always burned with envy at Mariana Bailey's power, seized this opportunity. "If this child grows up, he will be a danger to our town. We must kill him." When Mariana Bailey heard of this threat, she prepared. The Gorilla King, the beasts of the jungle, they all stood ready. This was no longer just a battle between the jungle and the town. It was a mother's battle for her child. The townspeople reached the jungle's border, believing the child would be easy to take. But they did not realize the jungle was not the same anymore. Mariana Bailey was not just the jungle's daughter. She was now a mother. She placed her son in the hands of the Gorilla King and whispered, "It is time to show them the power of the jungle." The moment the townspeople set foot inside, the jungle swallowed them whole. Gorillas, wolves, serpents. Every beast stood in formation. But the most terrifying of all was the fire in Mariana Bailey's eyes. "Do you think you can steal the jungle's power? Do you think you can lay a finger on my son?" For the first time, the townspeople saw the raw, untamed force within her. For the first time, they understood she was never theirs. She was the jungle's queen. Uncle David trembled. He fell to his knees. "Forgive us, Queen. We will never harm your child." Mariana Bailey smiled. She turned to her son, the child who had not spoken a word. But in his eyes, the light of the future shone. "You cast me out, but the jungle embraced me. Now you will fear the jungle. This is my kingdom, and this is my son, heir to the wild." The townspeople fled in terror, and they never dared return. Mariana Bailey's son grew. He carried the Gorilla King's strength. The jungle's secrets rested in his gaze, and his mind held the wisdom of Mariana Bailey. He understood the language of humans, and he understood the language of beasts. He knew the heart of every creature in the jungle. But greed never rests. Some men in the town had heard rumors. that deep within the jungle lay a land so fertile it shone like gold. David's son, Kevin Lee, stepped forward. For too long, we have feared the jungle. But not anymore. This jungle can give us everything we need. Under Kevin Lee's command, the townspeople marched into the jungle with torches and axes. The trees began to fall. But then, the snakes blocked their path. The birds shrieked from the skies. And then, the heir of the jungle arrived. Mariana Bailey's son had become one with the wilderness. His tall, powerful body carried the essence of the forest itself. At night, his eyes burned with an eerie glow. And in his breath, the jungle's roar lingered. As he stepped forward, Kevin Lee froze. "Who is he?" A voice whispered. "He is the one you called a monster." Mariana Bailey stood beside her son. "He is my child, the heir to the jungle." The townspeople gawked in silence. The child said nothing, but his mere presence filled the air with an untamed force. Kevin Lee's face twisted in rage. "We will not leave. This jungle is our resource." He turned to his men. "Attack." And then, the son of the jungle revealed his true strength. He gripped a massive tree branch. With a single movement, he snapped it in half. Then, he slammed it into the earth. The ground trembled. For the first time, he let out a cry. It was not a human scream. It was not an animal's roar. It was something else. Something ancient. Something untamed. The jungle's own voice. This was the roar of the jungle. The townspeople trembled in fear. Kevin Lee raised his spear and hurled it at the son of the jungle. But before it could reach him, the Gorilla King stepped forward. The spear pierced his mighty chest. Mariana Bailey's scream thundered through the jungle. The Gorilla King turned to her one last time, and then his eyes closed forever. The son of the jungle watched his father die. He shut his eyes, took a deep breath, and when he opened them, they burned red with fury. He let out a deafening roar. Snakes coiled around the townspeople's legs. Monkeys snatched their axes. Wolves lunged at them. Elephants tore branches from trees and used them as weapons. Kevin Lee and his men fled. But the jungle would not let them escape so easily. Some managed to break free and return to town. But when they arrived, they found only devastation. The town was empty. Those who remained were sick. The land had turned barren. The wells had dried up. Uncle David lay collapsed in front of his house. Mariana Bailey and the son of the jungle stood at the edge of the forest, gazing at the town. The son spoke. "Look, mother. They tried to destroy the jungle, but nature has judged them." Mariana Bailey took a deep breath. "My son, the jungle does not belong to us alone. It belongs to nature itself, and those who seek to destroy it will be destroyed by nature." Years passed. The jungle grew denser, stronger, but the town fell into ruin. The people either fled or perished. Yet time does not stand still forever. One day, figures appeared at the jungle's edge. Their clothes were tattered, their faces hollow with hunger. They were not strangers. They were the same people who had once waged war against the jungle. Now they were weak, homeless. The son of the jungle watched them and said, "Mother, look. These are the same people who abandoned us. And now they return." Mariana Bailey gazed at them with calm eyes. "My son, revenge does not heal all wounds. These people have already faced the consequences of their actions. Now we must find a way to restore balance between the jungle and the town." Mariana Bailey and the son of the jungle stepped forward. Behind them, the growls and cries of the jungle echoed. The townspeople saw them approaching and trembled with fear. Kevin Lee, now an old man, fell to his knees. "Forgive us, Mariana Bailey. We have done great wrong." Mariana Bailey spoke. "You sought to destroy the jungle, but the jungle forgave you, and now so shall I." Tears fell from the townspeople's eyes. Mariana Bailey and the son of the jungle taught them how to live with nature. they planted trees. They refilled the wells. Slowly, the town began to heal. But this time, it did not stand against the jungle. It stood with it. A new guerrilla leader took the place of the fallen king. He guarded the boundary between the town and the jungle. And Mariana Bailey, she was no longer just the queen of the jungle. She had become the mother of the town. The son of the jungle, once merely an heir, now stood as the bridge between two worlds. And when strangers came to the village, they were told this tale. But this was not the end of the story. This was only the beginning of a new world. So, friends, that was today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you have any thoughts, let us know in the comments. We'll see you in the next video. Take care and thank you.